What if I told you that by this Friday, over 50 million Americans could face one of the most dangerous weather patterns in recent memory? A pattern so complex that even meteorologists are calling it unprecedented for January. Right now, as you're watching this, temperatures in some parts of our nation are 30 degrees above normal. 30 degrees. But here's what should concern every family watching. This isn't just unusual warmth. This is the fuel for something far more dangerous that's already forming. In the next 25 minutes, you'll discover exactly which states are in the direct path, what specific day the worst conditions will hit your area, and the 3 critical supplies you need to gather in the next 48 hours. But pay close attention to what I'm about to share at the 5-minute mark, because that information could literally save your property, or even a life. Let me show you what's unfolding right now across our country. And I want you to think about this. We've been blessed with relatively calm weather this winter. But as it says in Ecclesiastes, there is a time for everything under heaven. A time for sunshine, and a time for storms. What's coming is a reminder that we are not in control, but we can be prepared. Here's the first shocking fact. Temperatures are currently running 30 degrees above average from Montana all the way down to the Gulf Coast. That's not a typo. 30 degrees warmer than what we should be experiencing in early January. Some areas will see temperatures in the 70s when they should be in the 40s. But while the South and West are experiencing this unusual heat, the Midwest and Northeast are locked in a battle between Arctic air and this surging warmth. And when these two opposing forces collide, that's when nature shows its power. Now, why does this matter to you specifically? Because this temperature contrast, this clash of air masses, is setting up not 1, not 2, but potentially 3 major storm systems in the next 7 days, each one capable of disrupting millions of lives. Let me ask you something. Do you remember where your flashlights are right now? Do you know if your generator has fuel? Have you checked your emergency supplies lately? Because by Tuesday morning, hundreds of thousands of people across Wisconsin and Minnesota might be waking up without power, and that's just the beginning. Here's what's happening tonight, and this is critical if you live anywhere from Minneapolis to Green Bay. A narrow band of freezing rain is going to develop. Now, you might think, freezing rain, we've dealt with that before. But listen to this. Some areas could see up to ½ an inch of ice accumulation. ½ an inch might not sound like much, but let me put this in perspective. A ¼ inch of ice can snap power lines. ½ an inch can bring down trees, block roads, and leave communities in the dark for days. And here's the frightening part. This ice band is so narrow, so precise, that your neighbor 10 miles away might see nothing while you're dealing with a crisis. Weather forecasters are still trying to pinpoint exactly where this heaviest ice will set up. It's like trying to predict exactly where a tornado will touch down. The technology is good, but it's not perfect. The Book of Proverbs tells us that the prudent see danger and take refuge, but the simple keep going and pay the penalty. Tonight and tomorrow, being prudent means treating every road like it could be covered in ice if you're anywhere in Wisconsin or Minnesota. Now, I mentioned earlier that something crucial would be revealed at the 5-minute mark. Here it is, and please share this with anyone you know in the affected areas. The most dangerous time for this ice storm will be between midnight tonight and 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. That's when temperatures will hover right at the freezing point, and that's when the heaviest ice will accumulate. If you absolutely must travel during this time, here's what you need to do. First, assume every bridge and overpass is iced over. Bridges freeze before roads because cold air circulates underneath them. Second, if you start to slide, do not slam on your brakes. Ease off the gas and steer in the direction you want to go. And third, keep an emergency kit in your car: blankets, water, non-perishable food, and a way to charge your phone. But the ice storm in the upper Midwest is just the opening act. Let me show you what's coming later this week, and this is where things get truly concerning. By Wednesday night, a massive storm system will begin organizing over the Rocky Mountains. Now, the Rockies act like a launch pad for winter storms. When moisture and energy cross those mountains, they often explode into powerful systems that can affect half the country. And here's where the forecast gets tricky. Computer models, the sophisticated tools meteorologists use to predict weather, are showing 2 very different scenarios. The American model shows one large storm. The European model shows 2 separate storms, each with its own dangers. When models disagree this much, this close to an event, It means we're dealing with an extremely complex situation. Think about it like this. Imagine trying to predict where a river will flow when it reaches a fork. Will all the water go left, or right, or will it split? That's what's happening with this storm system as it crosses the Rockies. And the direction it takes will determine who sees snow, who sees ice, and who faces severe thunderstorms. Now, don't miss what I'm about to tell you next, because this affects a much larger area than the ice storm we just discussed. By Thursday afternoon, severe weather will likely develop across the southern plains. We're talking about Missouri, Arkansas, Oklahoma, and potentially as far south as the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Damaging winds, large hail, and isolated tornadoes are all possible. In January. This is the kind of severe weather we typically see in April or May. And here's the statistic that should make everyone pay attention. Over the past decade, January tornadoes have been increasing. We're seeing more out-of-season severe weather, and this week could add to that troubling trend. But what makes this week truly unprecedented is what happens on Friday. While the Southeast deals with severe thunderstorms, the Midwest could be facing a major winter storm. Heavy snow, potentially a foot or more in some areas, combined with high winds. We could be looking at blizzard conditions from Iowa through Wisconsin and into Illinois. Let me paint you a picture of what blizzard conditions really mean. It's not just heavy snow. It's snow combined with winds over 35 miles per hour, reducing visibility to near zero. You can't see your hand in front of your face. Roads become impassable within minutes. This is the kind of weather that traps people in their cars, that overwhelms emergency services, that forces entire cities to shut down. And remember, this is happening at the same time other parts of the country are experiencing record heat. On Friday, Indianapolis might see temperatures in the 60s or even 70s, breaking records for warmth. Meanwhile, Des Moines could be buried under heavy snow. This temperature contrast, from one extreme to another, is what makes this pattern so volatile. Now, at the beginning of this video, I promised to tell you 3 critical supplies you need to gather in the next 48 hours. Here they are, and please write these down. Number 1. Water. Not just bottled water for drinking, but filled bathtubs and containers. If the power goes out, especially in freezing conditions, your pipes could freeze. Having stored water could be the difference between comfort and crisis. Aim for 1 gallon per person per day for at least 3 days. Number 2. Non-perishable food that doesn't require cooking. Think canned goods, protein bars, peanut butter, crackers. If the power goes out, you won't be able to use your stove or microwave. And if roads are impassable, you won't be able to get to the store. Many families learned this lesson the hard way during past winter storms. Number 3. Multiple ways to stay warm and communicate. Extra blankets, battery-powered radio, fully charged power banks for your phones, and if you have one, make sure your generator is fueled and ready. During major winter storms, power outages can last for days, sometimes weeks in rural areas. But here's something many people forget. Medications. If you or a loved one takes daily medications, make sure you have at least a week's supply on hand. During severe weather, pharmacies may close, deliveries may be delayed, and roads may be impassable. This simple preparation could be life-saving. Let me share something that happened during a major ice storm 5 years ago in the Midwest. A family found themselves without power for 6 days. They had food and water, but they hadn't thought about one thing: their infant's formula. The stores were closed, the roads were impassable, and they were miles from any neighbor. Thankfully, emergency services were able to reach them, but it was a terrifying few hours. The lesson? Think through every need your family has, especially for the very young and the elderly. Now, let's talk about the heat wave, because this is another aspect of this pattern that's truly remarkable. Starting Tuesday and continuing through Thursday, we're looking at record-breaking warmth across much of the nation. Montana, a state known for brutal winters, could see temperatures 30 degrees above normal. The Gulf Coast could feel more like April than January. And here's what concerns meteorologists. This kind of extreme warmth in winter is becoming more common. Over the past 15 years, winter heat waves have increased by 40% compared to previous decades. We're seeing the coldest season become less predictable, less reliably cold. For farmers and ranchers, this is more than an interesting weather fact. It's a crisis. Fruit trees need a certain number of cold days to properly go dormant. Warm winter weather can trick them into blooming early, and then a late freeze can wipe out entire crops. Livestock that have adapted to cold weather become stressed in unusual heat. These temperature extremes have real economic consequences that affect food prices for all of us. But perhaps most importantly, this warmth is adding fuel to the storm systems I mentioned earlier. Warm air holds more moisture. More moisture means more energy for storms. It's like adding gasoline to a fire. And when that warm, moist air collides with the cold air over the Midwest, that's when we see explosive storm development. The Bible tells us in Matthew that God causes the sun to rise on the evil and the good, and sends rain on the righteous and the unrighteous. Weather doesn't discriminate. These storms will affect everyone in their path, regardless of who they are or what they've done. But what we can control is how we prepare, how we respond, and how we help our neighbors. And that brings me to something I want you to think about. In times of crisis, communities come together. We've seen it time and time again. During hurricanes, neighbors help neighbors evacuate. During ice storms, people share generators and supplies. During heat waves, communities open cooling centers for those without air conditioning. This week, as these storms develop, we have an opportunity to be that helping hand. Check on your elderly neighbors. Do they have what they need? Can they get to safety if conditions deteriorate? Share this information with your family and friends in affected areas. Sometimes the simplest act of reaching out can make all the difference. Now, let me give you the specific timeline, day by day, of what to expect. And I want you to pay very close attention if you live in any of the areas I'm about to mention. Today through tonight, light to moderate snow across New York and New England. Not a major storm, but enough to slow down travel. 3 to 6 inches in most areas, with higher amounts in elevated terrain. This will clear out by late tonight. Tonight, through Tuesday morning, this is the critical ice storm window for Wisconsin and Minnesota. Freezing rain developing after midnight, becoming heaviest between 3 o'clock and 8 o'clock in the morning. Cities like Minneapolis, Green Bay, Wausau, and Eau Claire are in the potential impact zone. Ice accumulations of 1/4 to 1/2 an inch possible in the heaviest band. Power outages likely in the hardest hit areas. Untreated roads will be extremely dangerous. Tuesday afternoon, the ice storm begins to wind down across Wisconsin and Minnesota, but shifts into northern Michigan and parts of northern New England. Again, we're looking at the potential for 1/4 inch of ice, enough to cancel schools and make roads treacherous. Wednesday, a brief break in the action for most areas. The West Coast continues to see rain and mountain snow, but the rest of the country gets a one-day reprieve. Use this day to prepare for what's coming Thursday and Friday. Wednesday night, the big storm begins to organize over the Rockies. This is when moisture starts streaming over the mountains, and when forecasters will get a much clearer picture of exactly what we're dealing with. Thursday, severe weather develops across the southern plains. Oklahoma, Arkansas, Missouri, and possibly North Texas could see strong to severe thunderstorms with damaging winds, large hail, and a few tornadoes. This is also when heavy rain spreads across a large area from Texas up through the Ohio Valley. Record warm temperatures possible from Indiana through Ohio and into Michigan. Some areas could see highs in the upper 60s or even low 70s, shattering January records. Friday. This is the day when multiple hazards come together. Severe weather likely across the southeast and potentially the Ohio Valley. Meanwhile, heavy snow develops across the upper Midwest. The exact track of this storm will determine who sees what, but the potential is there for significant impacts. Blizzard conditions possible in parts of Iowa, Wisconsin, and Illinois if the storm tracks just right. Wind gusts could exceed 40 miles per hour in some areas. Saturday. The storm or storms continue to move east. The Northeast could see a mix of rain, snow, and ice depending on exact temperatures. The Midwest begins to dig out from whatever snow fell Friday night. And another batch of moisture could be moving over the Rockies, potentially setting up yet another storm system for early next week. Here's the reality. We're entering a 7 to 10 day period of very active, very complex weather. Multiple storms, multiple hazards, and millions of people affected. This is the kind of pattern that stretches emergency services thin, that tests our preparedness, and that reminds us of how powerful nature truly is. But here's something else I want you to understand. Despite all the technology we have, despite satellites and computer models and radar, weather forecasting is still not an exact science. We can see the big picture, we can identify the threats. But pinpointing exactly where the heaviest snow will fall or exactly where a tornado might touch down, that's still beyond our capability with complete accuracy. What does that mean for you? It means you need to stay informed. Don't just watch this video and think you're done. Weather conditions are evolving by the hour. By tomorrow, forecasters will have a much clearer picture of Friday's storm. By Thursday, they'll know with more certainty where the severe weather threat is highest. Check your local National Weather Service office, watch your local news, and have a way to receive weather alerts even if the power goes out. And here's a question I want you to consider. If the power went out right now, would your phone alert you to a tornado warning? Many people don't realize that weather alerts require either cell service or a weather radio. If a major storm knocks out power in cell towers, how will you know if there's a tornado approaching or if a blizzard warning has been issued? A battery-powered weather radio costs less than $30 and could save your life. It's one of those investments that seems unnecessary right up until the moment you desperately need it. I encourage everyone watching to add that to your emergency supplies if you don't already have one. Now, let's talk about the bigger picture for just a moment. What we're seeing this week is part of a larger pattern. Over the past several years, weather extremes have become more common. Record heat, record cold, record precipitation, all happening with increasing frequency. Some areas are experiencing 100-year floods multiple times in a decade. Others are seeing unprecedented droughts. Winter storms are becoming less predictable. For those of us who've lived 4, 5, 6 decades or more, we remember when winter was winter. When snow came in December and stayed until March. When spring arrived on schedule, summers were hot but manageable, and fall brought crisp, cool air. That predictability, that rhythm of seasons, it's changing. And while any single storm or heat wave can't be attributed to one specific cause, the overall trend is undeniable. But here's where faith comes in. We're called to be good stewards of what we've been given. That includes our environment, our communities, and our own families. Preparing for severe weather isn't paranoia, it's wisdom. Helping our neighbors isn't optional, it's commanded. And trusting that whatever comes, we're not facing it alone, that's where peace is found. In times like these, I'm reminded of the Psalms. The voice of the Lord is over the waters, the God of glory thunders. The voice of the Lord is powerful, the voice of the Lord is majestic. The Lord sits enthroned over the flood, the Lord is enthroned as King forever. Weather, in all its power and fury, is still under God's authority, and we, as His people, can face these storms with both preparation and peace. So, as we wrap up, let me give you your action items. These are the things you need to do today, right now, as soon as this video ends. First, check your location against the forecast I've laid out. Are you in an area expecting ice, snow, or severe weather? If yes, move to step 2 immediately. Second, gather those 3 critical supplies: water, non-perishable food, and ways to stay warm and communicate. Don't wait. Don't assume stores will be stocked when everyone else has the same idea. Go today. Third, charge all your devices. Phones, tablets, laptops, power banks, everything. If you lose power, you want maximum battery life available. Fourth, fuel your vehicles. Don't let your gas tank drop below half this week. If you need to evacuate or if power outages shut down gas stations, you'll be glad you filled up. Fifth, and this is crucial, make a plan with your family. Where will you shelter if a tornado warning is issued? What room in your house is safest? If you lose power in freezing temperatures, do you have a safe way to stay warm? Where will you go if your home becomes uninhabitable? Don't assume you'll figure it out in the moment. Have these conversations now. And sixth, reach out. Call your elderly parents or grandparents. Text your friends in affected areas. Check on your neighbors. Community is our strength in times of crisis. Now, before we end, I want to tell you what's coming next. This is just the beginning of what looks like a very active weather pattern. Even after this week's storms pass, long-range models are suggesting more systems could develop as we head into late January and early February. The pattern that's setting up, with these wild temperature swings and active storm tracks, could persist for weeks. In tomorrow's update, we'll have much more clarity on Friday's storm potential. The computer models will have had another 24 hours to analyze the data, and we'll know with much more certainty exactly where the biggest threats are. We'll also look ahead to the following week and what that pattern might bring. But here's what I need you to do. Subscribe if you haven't already, turn on notifications, and share this video with anyone you know in the affected areas. The more people who are prepared, the safer our communities will be. Weather doesn't have to be catastrophic if we're ready for it. And remember, in all of this, we're not alone. Yes, the storms are real. Yes, the dangers are significant. But we serve a God who commands even the winds and the waves. We prepare because that's wise. We help others because that's love. And we trust because that's faith. The next 72 hours will be critical for millions of Americans. Decisions made today will impact safety and comfort for the entire week. Don't delay, don't assume it won't affect you, and don't face this alone. We're in this together. Stay safe, stay prepared, and stay tuned for tomorrow's crucial update when the forecast becomes much clearer. Until then, be the neighbor, be the helper, be the light in whatever storm comes your way. God bless you, and God bless America.